Hey guys, George from SoundTraxx here. This week we're going to take back step here and we're going to talk about the CV Reset. Now we're going to talk about what happens if you do something wrong or you set a CV value that changed the decoder's behavior but you're not sure what you did. So we're going to talk a little bit about CV Reset, what all you can do, and how it can help you. So let's get started. Now in the Tsunami 2, there are a lot of CVs that give you a lot of flexibility on how you set up your decoder. Things like selecting the horn and selecting the prime mover, all the way up to adjusting braking rates, motor control CVs, volume settings, and more. Now with this, there's over 500 different CVs that you can access through the Tsunami 2. Now with that, and I will not say that I'm not guilty of this, but in there, when you're typing in your CV numbers into your throttle, sometimes you can type in the wrong value, or perhaps change a CV that you didn't mean to change because you typoed the CV number wrong. Well, now you have something going on with your decoder that you may not have intended, and now you're wondering what to do. Well, the good news is SoundTraxx has a safety net. Now, this is called CV Reset. So, as we're all familiar with, to reset the decoder, we simply set CV8 to a value of 8, and that will reset the entire decoder back to the way it was when it left our factory with all the CV defaults. So, for example here, we've set this decoder up to be a 645 turbocharged prime mover, and I don't remember which horn, but one of the default, or one of the different horns that you can choose from. Now, to simply reset the decoder, we can do this on the main line as long as we know our decoder's address, or we can do this on the programming track. So what we're going to do is we're just going to program CV8 to a value of 8. Now at this moment in time, the decoder has not reset. What the CV8 to 8 actually does is it sets a marker in the boot up or the startup process of the decoder to now go through and clear the CVs. So in order to complete the reset, we have to take power away from the decoder for a few seconds and then reapply track power. Now remember, if you have something like a current keeper or equivalent attached to your model, you have to wait for that current keeper to completely discharge, because the current keeper keeps the processor running and the boot up is where the CV reset takes place, and so we have to shut the processor down. So if you have a current keeper or something on there, you're going to want to completely discharge it. Now, as this model here, we do not have a current keeper in it, so what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to tip the locomotive over. Now the sound goes away because I've broke contact with one rail completely, so there's no circuit of power going through the processor. So this allows me also to gently set the locomotive back down on the track, completely re-railed, and while the decoder is booting up, you'll hear the sounds take a little bit of time to start up, and that's your indication to let you know the reset's taken place. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and set it down. And now you see the locomotive's quiet. Now it'll be quiet for a few seconds, the sound will come up, and then the lights will start to flash. And this flash will happen 16 times. And that's your visual indication to let you know the reset's taken place. So now as you can see or hear, when I blow the horn, we're back to the default horn. And you hear the EMD 567 prime mover as the default. Now let's say, for example, one of the things you do is when you were in your decoder setting up, you changed and were playing around with the function mapping. But now you want to go back to defaults for the function mapping only. All the rest of your sounds, your prime movers, your horn selections, all of those, and the volume settings, all of that stuff's exactly the way you want it, but you just want to change the function mapping. Now the good news is the Tsunami 2 actually allows you partial CV resets. And so when you look here on the page in our user's guide, you can see that CV8 to a value of 8 will actually reset the entire decoder. But now if you set CV8 to a value of 9, you're actually going to reset CVs 1 to 128. Now when you set CV8 to a value of 10, you're going to reprogram CVs 128 to 256. And CV value 11 is going to program all the 1.CVs, so 1.257 to 1.512. A value of 12 will program and reset CVs 2.257 to 2.512, and then a value of 13 will reset CV values 3.257 to 3.512. So you can do a partial reset, so you don't have to lose all of your programming. You can do just a partial, so that way you can save a lot of your other programming. Now, the last tip I want to have along with our CV reset, and I've had this asked by customers a lot, is one of my lights doesn't work. How do I control it? Well, if you're in there trying to turn on the lights and the lights don't work, then that tells us one of two things. Either the wiring is not properly attached to the decoder that you're intending the function output, or potentially the decoder is actually damaged and the lighting output doesn't work. So one thing you can do is to do a partial reset. Now, to do this, CV8 to a value of 13, as I mentioned, will reset only the 3-dot CVs. Now, the only CVs that are actually in the 3-dot group have to do with the wheel clickety-clack and then some of the turbine CVs up there in the top. So if you set CV8 to a value of 13, chances are you probably haven't reset those, but at the same time, if you have, you can only reset a couple of different CV values rather than going through a whole roster. But what this does is, upon restoration of track power, even with the partial reset, it will flash all of the lights, and it flashes them all 16 times. So if you're wanting to test to see if your light is connected properly to the decoder, or the decoder function output is working, you can set CV8 to a value of 13, cycle the power just like we did, and all the lights will flash. So in this case, if your light does not flash, your decoder does not have control of that lighting output. Now you have to go in and troubleshoot and find out why. If the light does flash, that does tell us the decoder does have power over that lighting output, so then maybe it's not wired to the one you thought it was. So you can use the CV Reset as a diagnostic tool to help you better understand your decoder and also test the installation. Now, for more information on this, please visit our website at SoundTraxx.com. Be sure to check out the user's guide where we explain this in detail, as well as many other features of the Tsunami 2, and help you get more accustomed and more acquainted with your decoder.